Lynette Graybull represents Indigenous youth.
Tatanka Kuye, Hahani, Dos, Nananada, Nakase, Nech. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lynette Graybull. I am both Hunkpapa Lakota from the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe. I'm also Northern Arapaho from the Wind River community of Wyoming. I greeted you in both of my languages, both in Lakota and also Northern Arapaho. I am very honored and pleased to be in this space today. Usually when things are, listening sessions and panels are being formed, it's usually the Native American voice that is usually less likely to be in these spaces. So I'm very honored to be here with you all today. And as the former person stated before, I am very inspired by the previous speakers that we had today. Before I go any further, I want to take the time to recognize the tribes of the North Carolinas. I think it's very important, again, what somebody else has stated before, is that we have to not only heal the land and work towards that, but we also have to remember who occupied these lands. And it's funny to me, and I speak all over the nation, and also internationally. And one thing I always find is most people don't know who are the indigenous tribal people of that land. And so I just want to take the time to recognize the Sara Chura tribe, the Kiowa, Ochanechi, Eastern Band of Cherokee, Lumbee tribe of North Carolina, Halawa Saponi Indian tribe, Kahari tribe, Saponi, Okanechi Band of Saponi Nation, Marahan Indian tribe, Wakama Swan tribe, Tuscanara Nation, and Chawanoki Indian tribe. May we honor the ancestors not only of indigenous people, but also our African American ancestors who all died in blood in these lands, either fighting for their rights or fighting for their way of living. I come to you with some few bullet points, and I'll try to make it as concise as possible. I dare not speak for all Native Americans or all indigenous people, but I will speak and lend ear or lend voice to some of the things that I advocate for and a lot of my partners and colleagues who advocate for indigenous justice. One of them being, I am the director and founder of a national organization called Not Our Native Daughters. We advocate for Native American women and children. I always say that when I speak is I stand before you a full and blooded indigenous woman. But one of the statistics, or many statistics that hang over my head, is that I am the most stalked, raped, murdered, sexually assaulted than any other ethnicity in this country. But can any of you tell me how many people in your county, in your community, that stands up for this? Native American women also suffer the highest domestic violence rates in the nation, 50 times higher versus the national average. But yet, out of the 575 tribes in this nation, only 58 tribes have a safe house or domestic violence shelter or resources. For me, I advocate for missing murdered Indigenous women and relatives across the nation. I also work in the DV sexual assault space. And one thing I always see when I'm being consulted into a case is that we have to send victims and children out of the state for resources. They cannot be near their own tribal lands for healing, for cultural healing. A lot of us use smudging, sage, sweetgrass, and red cedar to heal, sweat lodge, and other healing ceremonials that many tribes utilize for healing, but yet those resources are not available for our victims. Not only that, any murder that has happened to an Indigenous person across this nation, whether it's off or on the reservation, we get the most, I would say, the lack of attention towards it. And I would say a lot of these violence comes from the extractive industry. It's because tribal communities are near extractive or areas where industries are building, gentrifying, and yet, again, lack of resources, lack of funding, and even in the nonprofit sector, Native nonprofits get the least funding out of every nonprofit sector and issue that is out there. So not only do we have the worst statistics as Native American people, but we also have the least funding that comes and funnels our way. And including with the political climate that we're facing right now, we also have lost a lot of funding across the domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking space, and MMIW space. With that being said, I have another program under our organization called Indigenous Youth Voices. We work with Black and Native youth to get them exposed to conservation, environmental justice, and climate change. That funding also has been cut due to the current political climate. My question is, how are we supposed to heal and resolve if people are not even looking our way when it comes to these issues? How am I supposed to tell our youth group that we no longer can do the things that we do so that we can teach them traditional ecology knowledge, so that we can pass down the history and the healing that we know to do in our mountains, in our rivers, in our waters, to lend our children the passing torch to be the leaders and the advocates that we all need them to be. This, again, time is running low, but I just want to end with this. I thank you for your time, and whatever issue and whatever sector that anybody may be in, there's always a chance to invite somebody, an Indigenous neighbor, to be part of it. I encourage everyone to do that because we are here. We are still here, we are still alive, and we're still advocating, but we need you guys to invite us. Thank you.